Hello and welcome to another episode of Kaiju Curry House. We're at 127 now, and tonight we have a howling good time. We're going to talk dog soldiers. With me tonight is regular co-host Mr. Paul Williams. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Joe. How are you?
I am doing great. We're starting off the spooky season, and yes, September counts with dog
Does it?
soldiers. Yes, it does. As soon as August ends, it is Halloween time.
Okay, I'll give you that because I went shopping today, just by the by, and there's Christmas stuff out already.
We do not talk Christmas.
No, exactly.
No.
It might as well be spooky
season.
It can be spooky season because apparently it's almost Christmas. So yeah, we'll have Halloween as well.
Yeah. In the United Kingdom, folks, for those who are listening abroad, Halloween is not a big deal.
No.
However, apparently Christmas starts in August. Who knew? But anyways, we're counting down some of our favorite horror movies, creature features, strange beasts, if you will, and dog soldiers came up on our radar because the Joe had never seen it, and it had been recommended earlier on the podcast. So, Paul, had you seen this film prior to us starting this episode?
I can't remember when, but I had definitely seen it at some point, probably near a release, so early 2000s.
Yeah, it's clocking in at a 2002, I think it is.
Yeah, just over 2 decades old now.
My goodness. And you know what? I having watched this film now, I mean, it's got some nice names attached to it. We have Neil Marshall as a director. We have Liam Cunningham, if I'm saying his name right. And he's in there. I loved him in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a whole nother kettle of fish. But anyways, he's great. And then Kevin McKidd. Holy cow. He's in here. And doesn't he look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? He is young in this film.
Why should I know Kevin McKidd? Because I have to say I don't recognize that name.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Call of Duty. What is it? See, he was Father Deegan and Father Ted. Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, Father Ted, I know.
Train Spotting. Dude's got a pretty storied career, all things considered. So I think that, the fact that he's in here, it adds great credence to the film. But, it's a solid outing. But before we really delve into this, as we just did, we need to go forward and ask, what have Kaiju been up to? And since I remembered it, Paul, you're on the spot. What have Kaiju been up to?
Right. Now, I know it's not really Kaiju, but I feel like we have to mention Jurassic Park because it kind of counts.
Dinosaurs were the original Kaiju, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And
why are we mentioning Jurassic Park?
We're mentioning Jurassic Park. One because it must be an anniversary.
It is the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park this year.
Right, that's it. Okay, because they're re-releasing at the cinema on Wednesday. I think it is. It's going to be shown in 3D at our local cinema. They're doing the 3D Jurassic Park version, so that should be fun. They've also Limited Run, who we previously had on the podcast. They've done a awesome retro collection of all the Nintendo Jurassic Park games, the Game Boy games, the NES games, the SNES games, and that comes with like steel booklets in a VHS case and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. There's been lots of goodies, hasn't there, released, and I've managed to resist most of them. I didn't buy the one I sent you a picture of, which was the Kenner one. I did see on sale the Transformers crossover, which is a bit older now, but where you get the transforming T-Rex and the transforming Jeep, so they can just battle each other. And I'm like, dude, I want to open it and play with it, but at the same time, I want to leave it in the box. I just can't decide what to do.
Nice. Well,
I thought that was so cool.
Folks listening, should Paul open the Transformers box, or should he
let us know?
Sit there and collect dust?
I feel like I should enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I got my Mattel version of the Kenner Red Rex, and I love it. I just absolutely love it.
Do you play with it?
No. But I will probably get another one for children who are growing up in our house because it is just the perfect Tyrannosaurus Rex toy. It really is. So, I mean, like
Okay.
they actually Mattel went a couple degrees farther than Kenner actually had. So this Tyrannosaurus Rex can actually eat things, and you can pull them out of its stomach, and then it does a roar. It has the real fill skin. It has the paint job. It has better articulation than the original. I mean, we've got a lot going on there, and I think they really knocked it out of the park with that. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that
But yeah,
sounds cool.
so that's what
Um,
Paul's been up to. Good,
uh,
good.
yeah. I played a game for about 20 minutes and got bored of it, but I'm going to mention it anyway. It's called Scorn. It's a puzzle game. It's on, I think, everywhere, but it's included with Game Pass. And I mention it because it's inspired by Giga. So all the artwork, like the whole place you're exploring, is just this grotesque, very alien-esque world, and it's a puzzle game. So there's no rushing around. You just got to try and solve puzzles in this really disgusting environment. So if you like Giga's artwork and you like puzzles, check it out. I couldn't solve the puzzle, so I just got frustrated and quit. And also, I watched a film recently, which
You
coincidentally,
did that on this podcast, you know. I
yeah,
know.
I
Oh,
watched a film by Neil Marshall.
oh,
So that was not Dog Soldiers. It's called The Layer,
the
which
layer was that good? No,
it was fine. it's it
I
was
mean,
fine.
well, you can be honest with me here. I mean, like, was it though?
I mean, it wasn't. I was
Was
like,
it the cave, or was it its own thing?
it's not as good as The Cave.
Because
No,
when I see the layers like poster and everything on the internet, I'm just like, this is giving me major cave vibes.
yeah,
The
because it
cave,
is. Yeah, because basically, an RAF pilot shot down in Afghanistan. They find this secret bunker underground where they're experimenting, and there's like aliens in there. And then they wake up, and you can imagine what happens. But it wasn't scary at all. It was, yeah, it was fine. There were some cool scenes in it, but nothing really stuck out as, oh, that was really well done. It was quite a by the numbers job. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you were really bored. But it's by no means a bad film. It just wasn't great.
fair enough.
So that's unfortunately that's obviously 20 years after Dog Soldiers, he's still doing a very similar thing. It doesn't feel like it's really progressed much. But hey ho, Joe, what have kind you been up to?
So Joe has, I mean, if you listen to this podcast regularly, I have been again working on writing, and then I did a little bit of 3D printing, and I've been particularly busy otherwise because it's been nice out, and why not? But I 3D printed a Prestasuchus skull, which I am quite happy with.
Oh, what?
And
Sorry.
okay, so minor rant now. So
Oh
there are
no.
these things called Rarasuchids, and basically, before dinosaurs, they were the big bads, and they were like big terrestrial crocodiles that ran around like
What?
quickly and chased things down, and they had big honking teeth. They are the stuff of nightmares. If you can imagine a 20-foot crocodile that can actually run coming after you, that's what they
Oh,
were.
still on all fours, I take it.
Still on all fours, yeah. Yeah. But they weren't quite crocodiles, but they were archosaurs. And yeah, they were pretty rad. So I found a pretty good scan of one from a natural history museum on Sketchfab, right? Yeah, I think it was Sketchfab. And anyways, downloaded it and printed it up, and it's great. It's the fossil that like was discovered, and so it's got imperfections. It's kind of squished to one side, but it looks like the fossil that you'd see in a museum.
Yeah.
So I printed a little paperweight for my desk. So I was pretty happy with that. Rowdy, dangerous animals. I recently, watched Dog Soldiers, which we're going to talk
Oh.
about, which I have to say it was pretty grand. And other than that, not a lot has been going on. Although I have been drooling over the IDW one-off Space Godzilla that Matt Frank did. I want to get my hands on one of those because it looks pretty great.
Right. Awesome. So with that,
With that
let's
out of the
delve
way,
in. to dog soldiers.
Right. It's dog soldiers. This is what is it? A 2.2, $2.3 million budget will get you?
Yeah, yeah, not a lot of money.
Well, I mean, like, I think a fair amount of that went to the cast because when you have a motion picture like this, I mean, it's kind of like 12 Angry Men with dogs outside, to be fair. I mean, like, they're all like every character in this film matters. And they do a lot with them. So I think a fair amount of the budget went to paying the actors, shooting on site, and then, well, getting the dogs. Really, we
Yeah,
got some
so the
awesome
dogs,
werewolves here.
explosives, set.
Yeah, yeah, pyrotechnics. I think a
Yeah.
lot of the budget actually went to the pyrotechnics. Now that I think about it. So this film, when it starts off, I went in completely blind. I had read no reviews.
Brilliant.
All I had seen was the poster on Amazon, like just like the screen cap for the film. And when the opening scene started, and we just have a couple camping, and then you don't see what kills the woman. And, it's kind of like a grainy, like almost 80s esque, filming stock.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't sure what to expect because I didn't know what the werewolves would look like or anything. I again completely blind going into this. So watch that, and we got pretty far into the film. I think the entire I want to say the first and second act went really quickly, and then you have like a prolonged third act when they get into the house. But the first act and the second act, it's like, oh, they're getting a lot done without showing any wolves. They've got like a really low budget here. This is interesting. And then the third act happens, and it's kind of like Jaws. They let you see the thing, and it was pretty cool. I think that was a nice weight to have that. I think it really paid off. So, do you want to talk plot?
Yeah, we can talk. I mean, I think one of the great things about this film is there isn't a huge plot to it. It's mainly character development and then a big finale. So although there's a bit of a plot, there's a bit of lore in there. I think one of the best things about the film is that it is very contained and it's not trying to explain too much. It's just like, you're here with this crew, you're experiencing it just as much as them. There's no outside. There's just their experience. Will they survive? Some of them will. Some of them won't.
Exactly. But so when we're going to talk about it, what we're looking at here is soldier. I mean, like, this is a film about soldiers. The soldiers themselves do not start out as werewolves. Okay, so there are no werewolf soldiers. I mean, people get bitten, scratched, all sorts of things. So draw what you may from that. But we start with arguably like our two mainish characters, Kevin McKidd and Leon Cunningham, who are Cooper and Ryan, respectively. And they are doing like a training mission in which Cooper has managed to avoid detection from the rest of the crew for 21 hours. Like, I think it's probably, I don't know, please comment to us. It's just a training exercise where they let him loose, and the rest of his squad has to find him. That's their training, and his training is
Yeah.
avoiding them. And he goes 21 hours, and Ryan, who's a bit of a jerk in this film, says, "Great job, top of the class. Now, next test. See that dog right there? I want you to shoot it."
Nope.
Cooper will not shoot the dog. Doesn't that make you guys feel so much better? Cooper will not shoot the dog. So then Ryan does.
So Ryan, on the other hand, quite
Yeah,
happy.
Ryan just shoots the dog. And it's just like they're going to do a scrap basically over this dog that died for no reason. And needless to say, Cooper gets, plucked back to the bottom of the class. Actually, he gets kicked out. So then we have a bit of a timeline jump, and Cooper's still in the military. He's doing his own thing. Apparently, that was special ops. And now it's just a regular training exercise with his comrades. And I think they're just doing a wilderness survival general course. Things go Pete Tong, let's say it that way. And it all starts out with a flying cow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great character development. They're all sitting around a fire. They're talking about things. Out of nowhere, cow comes crashing down. So I watched this with my partner Don, and we were not expecting a cow to just drop out of the sky. Now, granted, these guys are camping in like a ravine, so the way it's explained is the cow just fell off the ledge. It was bleeding to death, and it just falls off the ledge and in the middle of their camp. So there we go. Flying, at least, is explained. This takes place in Scotland, incidentally. So for those of you who love Highland cows, I'm sorry. One of them gets et, or at least partially. So the guys are just like, oh, dead cow. Well, like we can track it. It's kind of like on the way to where we need to go. So they track it, and the cow was obviously attacked. I'm not sure if we ever got to a werewolf cow, but that would have been interesting.
That would have been.
Yeah, weir cow. I mean, like cow wolf, hybrid. I don't know. But anyways, we don't get to follow the cow's story any farther than that. But we go, and the guys get into the thick of it. The wolves start attacking. We don't really see them very well up until this point, but they are rescued by the lady, Megan. Her name is Emma Cleesby, I think it is. If
That's the one.
Right. Yeah. I'm not positive I'm pronouncing her name right, so I apologize.
So it's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Emma, if you're listening to this, I apologize. But anyway, people get my surname wrong. Anyway, she rescues them. She's driving along. Soldiers are wounded. They pile in, and then she drives them over to a house. It's the only house for miles. She says, folks should be home, but they're not for some reason. And it's just like, oh, well, they might have gotten et too, because they're the only folks for miles around. So it should be noted that whilst all the firefighting and everything was going on and stuff, we did manage to find Ryan, who has been this guy who kills German shepherds. He's just been tramping around with his commandos, and they've had a rough go of it, especially Ryan, who's the only one left alive. And he just can't stop saying there was only meant to be one. The plot thickens. So they all hole up in this house, and the werewolves and the soldiers spend the third act basically having a stakeout. And it has a lot of aliens vibes, because like we've got the commandos holding out against like an anthropomorphized enemy. We've got Zulu mentioned by the guys there, because like there's more werewolves presumably or potentially than there are soldiers. But yeah, it's just basically like they're holed up, and the werewolves keep coming after them, and they're getting whittled down over the course of the third act. And that's kind of the movie in a nutshell. And I think for what it is, it accomplishes everything really well, because it's the character development that really pushes this film forward, like you said. Did I miss anything in that plot synopsis?
No, not unless we want to go into like spoiler territory.
Yeah, okay. So I guess
I don't know if we want to do that.
All right, so all right, folks. So put your spoiler muffs on now. I guess Paul can take us through some, great plot points that are spoilerific.
I mean, it's been 20 years, so we could probably
You haven't seen this film in 20 years? Geez, for me, it's been like 20 minutes. But anyway, so Cooper is the only one that lives,
and the dog.
And well, yeah, there's another dog.
Oh, sorry, there's another dog, not the first.
There's another doggy. There's another doggy. It's sheepdog. They find it in the house. It's a good doggy.
Anyway,
yeah, very good doggy. Except for when Sarge is like lying on his back.
Oh yeah, and he's trying to. Oh, he's ripping his intestines.
No, it wasn't his intestines.
Oh no, it's just the bandage, isn't it?
Yeah. Sarge gets like clawed pretty bad across his gut. Yeah. His intestines were like spilling out. They put them back in, which is
brilliant. Just
hardcore. And then they bandage him up, and then like at one point everybody's fighting him up and stuff like that, or they're fighting and like the wool's off and everything in this house. Sarge is sitting there on his back, like screaming, while this damn sheepdog is chewing at his bandage and pulling at it. And Sarge's like, go away, darn dog. He didn't use that language. I think I toned it down a bit there. But that was pretty good. But yeah, um, everyone dies except for Cooper, and yeah, Ryan is the last one aside from Cooper. And I think the great point in this film is that Cooper has been, or not Cooper, but Ryan has been turned into a werewolf, and then Cooper has to kill him in this final fight, Werewolf Ryan versus Cooper, and Cooper ends up shooting the dog
Yeah.
and kills Werewolf Ryan. And I think that that was a great way to close it. And then additionally, there was a football game that kept getting referenced where England and Germany were playing each other, and everybody wants to know the score. And we never find the score out in the film, except during the credits. There's a newspaper like clipping where it says, "My platoon was eaten by werewolves." And then you see the England versus Germany headline, England 5, Germany 1. So you get to see the football score that's been being talked about this entire film. But yeah, like those were some great like spoilers, some great plot points that I think tied everything full circle in this film. I think that that was a really good effort by the team of writers.
Yeah, because I was wondering, oh, is what's his face, Ryan, a werewolf before before he got attacked? But no, he only just got turned, and it doesn't seem like he can do it by his own will. He just happens to turn at some point. He can't control it, and then he doesn't. Well, I thought he might run out and then attack the others or join them, but you don't. He's kind of like hiding, isn't he? Hiding out, waiting it all out.
I mean, he's got a sword through him at this point, too.
And yeah, he does have a sword through him.
Incidentally, that is the most cringy, skin crawly moment of the entire film when the sword is going into
Going through his teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a sound. There's a sound. Oh,
werewolf, who is then going up against Cooper. The sword is pushing through Cooper's teeth, and it's making that horrible like
grating sound.
holes on a chalkboard. Yeah, it's very cringe, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole room stopped in our home, and we were just like, "Oh!" So yeah, like that was the most intense part of the film for Joe. Everything else was great.
Yeah, and Sarge, who's Sean Pertwee, he also turns into a werewolf. So
Well,
his
he's getting
intestines.
close. He's getting close. He takes his own.
Yeah, he starts to turn and then sacrifices himself to kill the others. And Megan was a werewolf
Whole time.
the whole time. She was a werewolf. And it's just the family who lived there were the werewolves.
See, the thing that bothers me about Megan being a werewolf is, was she able to transform at will?
It looked like it. It seemed that she can control it because she turns when she wants to turn.
Yeah, she's let the cat out of the bag. She backs down a hallway and she starts turning. I mean, they don't let her finish. She dies.
Oh no.
But anyway, like I just thought that that was a very interesting like choice. But power to it. It made for an interesting subplot there because she let all the wolves into the house.
Yeah. She does say, so like one of the lines she says is, "I thought you could get me out of here. You're my only hope to get out." So she must be able to control it and wanted to escape from the others in this family, and they won't let her leave.
Who knows? Like,
I mean, they're all dead at the end anyway. But they could have easily done a prequel explaining any of that if they wanted to go there.
so where do you think that this was shot? The film, the plot is set in Scotland. We even have Highland cows, but where do you think it was shot?
I have no idea where it was shot because it's all just in a forest and then in a house. It could have been shot anywhere.
I know, but like I really enjoy this because it was it was planned for the Isle of Man.
Okay.
It was planned in Manitoba, but it was actually shot in Luxembourg.
Oh, okay. No, I
Which was
wouldn't have guessed that.
And the thing is like there's mountains, there's forests and stuff like that. So for those of you who are listening to this podcast and you're like, what the heck's a Luxembourg? I'm looking at you, Americans. Luxembourg is like a little country, more or less like on the border with France, Germany, all that. And it's just kind of tucked away. It's small, but what it also is it's kind of like tax free. So the justification, other than the settings and the fact that there was funding secured from the Luxembourg Film Festival, was like they could shoot here relatively like on low budget. So yeah, it was shot in Luxembourg, and there aren't many films that are shot in Luxembourg. So this is one that's kind of interesting, but I really like the fact that they've probably fooled a lot of Scots into thinking that this was shot in Scotland. But it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Oh,
It
so I
was
wouldn't have
shot.
been able to tell the difference.
Yeah, well, my partner lived in Luxembourg for a good long time. So she was just like, well, I'll be darned. Luxembourg. So, we were quite chuffed with that. So that was an interesting point of this film. So special effects. What do you think about our special effects in this film?
I mean, they're people, either very very tall people or people on stilts or something that are werewolves
You bring up a very good point.
because they're
So,
huge in this film.
well, the werewolves in this film, so they do the toe walking. So they have like like in some of the like whenever you see the wolves, they are walking on their toes, and then the makeup for the wolves, I think, is pretty spectacular, especially on this budget. So the wolves have these great long snouts. They are bipedal. They have great grasping long arms with these really wicked claws, which they use to great effect. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about these wolves was the patterns of color on the fur. So in the past, when I've seen werewolves, they've just kind of like been full black, full brown, and there isn't a lot of color variation. But on these wolves, they actually looked like wolf faces. So like wolves have like these whites and dark blacks and grays and a bit of brown, maybe some red highlights like across their faces, kind of like some huskies do. And you just don't see that kind of detail or that effort put into a lot of werewolves. But this film actually had it. I mean, I'm going to make some listeners laugh right now because my partner, who is a Twilight fan, thought that most werewolves in most werewolf films just transformed into giant wolves.
Oh, okay.
That was her interpretation of what a werewolf film was. I just kind of had to laugh and go, "Have you ever seen the actual Wolfman film, of which these are all descended from? The guy stands on 2 feet. He looks like a man, but he's kind of a wolf." So it was kind of like a wake up for her as well. Like this is what a lycanthrope really looks like. So lycanthrope is like the fancy word for werewolf, if you want to talk, intelligently on the matter. But anyway, I thought that the makeup and the special effects for the wolves was particularly great. I think that they really knocked it out of the park with that because again, during the beginning of the film and pretty much up to the halfway point, you don't really see the wolves.
No.
They do a great bait and switch. Like you can kind of see a claw, you can see a hand, you can hear them, but you do not see them. And then in the third act, they are there for all their glory and they look fantastic. Like I was not expecting that kind of payoff for it, to be fair.
That's brilliant. I'm glad it sets it up like that where you can think, oh, this is going to be a really low budget film where we won't see anything. And no, they're just teasing you.
Yeah, in a sense that I thought that was really great. And then they went through like extra points like for detail. I thought it was great too. So the soldiers that are like our platoon that are doing their training mission in quote unquote Scotland, they're firing blanks. They don't have real weapons. And it would have been nothing for the guys to save a bit of money and not go through the extra effort of putting like the actual props on the end of the muzzles to show that they were just firing blanks. I thought, but but like the extra prop to show that these are blank weapons, they aren't firing live rounds. I thought that like they went through the effort to show that like to differentiate those weapons from other weapons. I thought that was really nice. The fact they're counting down ammo, which does eventually disappear,
Yeah.
is pretty great too. The fact that we have guys saying, don't spray and pray, controlled bursts, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Very aliens again, isn't it?
it is. But, like, there's good stuff in this film. Like, there was a real effort put into it, and it definitely shows. Definitely shows. So, I think from a practical effects standpoint, it is flipping amazing. This film,
Yeah.
I can't
For that
honestly,
budget.
I can't honestly name a film with werewolves that did a better job. So, like the original Wolfman, I mean, like, okay, it's classic, Universal monster, but we all know that's Lon Chaney nowadays. Like, it has not aged as well as Creature from the Black Lagoon, has it? So that film, okay. We've got The Howling is another great practical effects werewolf film, but in The Howling, like those wolves aren't moving around, are they? Like from what I recall of The Howling, like when the wolf transforms, the transformation's pretty cool, but the wolves are pretty static. They kind of stand there, you know? So these wolves, like the actors in full makeup, full wolf costume, they are running around, they are interacting with the cast, they are having a boxing match, in some scenes. Like Spoon held his own, go Spoon. But like I think that those held up really well. So in my opinion, better than The Howling. Van Helsing was all CGI.
Mm.
The new Wolfman, I mean, like it looked cool. It was a great callback to the original Wolfman. But as I previously stated, like you've got Benicio del Toro's facial structure and everything in this Wolf Man, and it was all done with CGI again. So not knocking digital artists, but again, whoever made the actual props that these people are really roughhousing in and kept them looking that nice through an entire shooting schedule, like they really knocked it out of the park. I mean, what other werewolf films can you name? Like those are the big ones, in my opinion. We aren't going to talk about Twilight because I
No,
didn't even,
please don't.
those wolves didn't even look good. But I think that like we've done really good here. I mean, Harry Potter had a wolf, but werewolf, but nowhere near as epic or as threatening as these ones here. So when you go down like the list of werewolf films, this one definitely holds its own, but it will go toe to toe with even the best practical effects of any other werewolf film. Rant over, but I just had to state my piece here because I was enormously impressed. I'm actually going to look up who did the special effects for this
Yeah,
now.
so I was trying to find, like, I found names, but I don't necessarily know which company it is they worked for, unfortunately. I'll say, watching this film, I think, as you say, that the characters are probably the best bit. That it's just like Aliens, they're such a strong, tight group. The football joke where he's just he's asking Megan, he's like, do you know what the score is? No, I didn't even know there was a game on. He's just that obsessed that he wants nothing more than just to go home and watch the footy. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. And while they're held up in the room and they're trying to fight off these werewolves, they're doing some really interesting things like the Sarge is on the toilet and he's got a lighter and a hairspray and he's trying to keep the werewolf at bay
Mm-hmm.
while the other chap's hacking away at the wall with a metal bar to try and get into the next room where they then escape by hiding in a closet and then shooting out the floor to fall downstairs. It's just so great that they're not just going up and down the stairs. They are finding these interesting ways to keep one step ahead of this pack of werewolves who are just a family. They're just family who've transformed. They're normally really nice people, but
Yeah. So the
so,
other thing is that like this house that they're holding up in, the reason that they can't find the family is because the wolves are actually the
yeah.
family. I think that's low key hilarious. That is low key hilarious.
And apparently there was due to be a sequel. So they announced a
Yeah,
sequel.
they were talking about that um up until 2014, it looks like. And that's quite a deal. I mean, like it went through all sorts of iterations, and then I think coming 2014,
Lost the
and
rights. I think Neil Marshall lost the rights after so many years
yeah,
because he said they tried to do a web series and that didn't take off, and they tried to do a sequel for full budget because it said it had a there's going to be a sequel with a budget of 32 million.
gee willikers.
So that was like, wow, they're really up in the ante there. And they said, I think the sequel, there's a few different stories floating around, but I think they were planning on, okay, let's have actual dog soldiers. So we're going to have, rather than just a family, we're going to have a group of military who are now werewolves, and let's see how dangerous they can be.
Oh my lord.
But yeah, obviously, for whatever reason, it didn't take off. But when they're doing the budget by 10 times, that's quite a bit to ask for. They must have had a lot of hope for it. I don't think
So
it's for now.
so in terms of like recommending this film, what would be the things that you call out to recommend this film? Like why would you recommend this to somebody?
Why would I recommend it to someone?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's great. It's like it's got good special effects. It's got brilliant cast. It's well written, well acted, well directed. There's If you like werewolf films, there's no reason not to watch this. It's
Right. So we are going to call, I mean, like I'm going to call it the plot for this film, but I said earlier that I would call out the people who put together these special effects. So we've got Richard Darwin as the animatronic model designer. So Richard, giving you a shout out because your stuff holds up, man. So we've got Roland Godgin, and he's just listed as special effects. We've got Michael Jansko listed as special effects technician. Got Tacey Tacey Neal in the workshop. We've got Martin Latter listed again as special effects. Andy Lee as Foamer. Edward listed as special effects. Or no, Edward Whistlehan. And then we've got Harry Whistlehan and Rick Whistlehan as
Is this a
special
family
effects.
business?
Yeah, special effects supervisor and special effects. Then we've got Keith Wilson, special effects makeup, and Robert Zeppers as quote unquote special effects. We've got Bob Keane as a visual effects supervisor. So we've got all of those folks that were there making these wolves come to life. So we've got like a fair team going on. And how many wolves did we see in a scene all at one go? I want to say three. We've got the three that we see regularly, I think.
I say, was it three or four?
We got the three that I definitely remember that were the family members that you see regularly. They're kind of like gray. And then Ryan was black. His wolf has black fur. I think
Okay.
set him apart. I mean, he has a sword sticking through his chest too, but other than that, it's kind of where we are. But yeah, I mean, like recommending this film. It doesn't have a deep plot, but it has amazing character development. It has believable characters. Like you actually become attached to these characters. They're really good in that sense. And I like the fact that there's a man, Cooper, and a woman who's Megan. Well, she's a werewolf, so woman-ish, human-ish, and they have a relationship, but it's not romantic. There's no romance there. People joke about it, but I think it's more like army banter. But
Yeah.
I think that that's really cool because up until the point where you realize she's a werewolf, she's just her own solid character, really. Like she's helping Sarge. She rescues them in the car when they need it. She looks after the puppy. She's like just generally tending to wounds. She's the zoologist, like there's a lot going on there for her character. and she's not a damsel in distress. She's not just there as eye candy. Like she's a significant player in this film on a couple of different levels. So I think that that holds credence. There isn't a lot. I mean, she's the only female in this film that you're going to be able to tell is female. There are female wolves, but I'll be darned if I could tell the difference, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't looking. But yeah, I think that she does carry a lot of weight as the only female member of this, but she's treated with a lot of respect. And yeah, again, like the payoff with the visual effects is great. So it's a great low budget, like indie werewolf film. It does a lot. It's a really grand accomplishment, really. It's just a shame that Joel Neal hasn't really changed too much. I mean, he did do Hellboy, though.
Oh, did
The
he?
most recent, yeah, the most recent Hellboy.
Okay. Because he did The Descent, didn't he?
Yeah, he did the
Where they're in a
Descent. Yeah, yeah.
cave being taken one by one, and then obviously Leia. I'm trying to think what else he did, but
He did Hellboy?
Hellboy, okay. Yeah, I enjoyed the new one. That was good fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed the new one too because it actually felt like Hellboy. Well, for me, when I read Hellboy, it's like that. I mean, like I will say Ron Perlman, absolutely amazing. It's a toss up between the two, which is better. But yeah, he did the new Hellboy. The new Hellboy was pretty fun. I really like some of the opening dialogue in that film too. But again, he's kind of he's got his niche, and he hasn't really expanded from that. So it's just kind of a shame that other things haven't been pursued. He's got kind of like a niche gore horror thing going on.
Yeah. The special effects, by the way, it is like a family thing. It's because the company is Special Effects Weissenhahn.
That sounds like a very Luxembourgish name.
So yeah, it's a special effects company. They've been doing special effects for 50 years now, and they're in the Netherlands.
Oh wow, Netherlands. Never mind then.
There you go.
Yeah. Kudos to you guys. Great special effects. We love practical effects on this podcast. So yeah, what is the next spooky film that we're going to tackle on our run up to All Hallows Eve?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I was speaking to a guy at work because he just found out that I'm into films. That I do a podcast about monster things, and like he called me up. We're having a meeting. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, I heard you do this." Oh, yeah, yeah. And he was like, "Oh, my favorite films are Dog Soldiers," which was like, "Oh, that's a coincidence." So, hi, Joe, if you're listening, other Joe. Sorry,
Great name, mate.
yeah, great name. And his other favorite film was The Thing. I was like, well, Joe, you might like our podcast. But they're two great horror films, but we've already discussed The Thing, and we've now discussed Dog Soldiers. So it's like, so what else? What else is a creature feature that is a horror? And I know Alex always says about It Follows is such a great kaiju horror.
I feel like we need to humor Alex now.
I feel like we should.
I mean,
in the lead up to Halloween, we've got to do It Follows, I think.
Yeah, there we do. We'll call Alex out of hiding to do It Follows. So for those of you who are not aware, we've discussed It Follows previously on the podcast. We've even had Matt Frank lend his opinion on it, which he was not impressed that we had it on the Kaiju podcast. But for the sake of the spooky season, we will do It Follows, which is a film about a supernatural force or a creature, even, who knows, that takes the form of whoever it has last killed. I think that's the lore behind it, right?
I don't know. I can't remember.
It changes its appearance. It changes its appearance, but
okay,
it is hunting down the line, and it will find you. It's like that. It's like that joke. There's a snail that if it finds you, it will kill you. So but like you're always walking around. You can have $1 million or pounds, but this snail is always after you. So in the sense that this thing is always walking towards you, and it is out to kill you terribly, might I add.
Yep.
The only way you can pass it on is by having relations of a sexual nature with another person, in which case it will hunt that person down. So we will do It Follows. That is certainly a strange beast, but we will not make a habit of deviating that far, will we, Paul? So there we go.
I did Google like horror monster films.
Good old Google.
Have you heard of Sweetheart?
No.
Oh, neither have I. But apparently it's about a woman stranded on an island and there's some strange creature on there that's hungry for flesh.
Paul, where do you find this stuff?
Google.
Wow. We are making every effort not to just like call out all the mainstream stuff. Incidentally, mainstream stuff. Godzilla -1 trailer dropped. Gamera's coming in a week. All this stuff. But no, Paul goes for, what was it? Sweetheart?
Sweetheart, which I've never heard of. So that's good. We don't want the mainstream things. We want the things that we haven't heard of before. Things under the radar. I could go watch the Gamera anime. Is it out now?
No, I think it's September 7th for us.
Okay. So I could watch that. I probably will do soon.
I'm totally going to watch that. First Gamera stuff, and who knows how long. I'm all over that.
No.
Sacrilege, Paul. Sacrilege.
We'll see. It might be good. It might not. I don't want to get my hopes too high.
We actually got our first Godzilla versus Gamera shots. Oh. There's a mobile game. The name eludes me, but it has been making the rounds, and we actually have the first officially sanctioned Godzilla versus Gamera art. Now, why this is a big deal is because that's never actually happened before.
No, I didn't think that was allowed.
Yeah, but we've got it now, and it is the Netflix Godzilla and the Netflix Gamera, and they are duking it out versus each other. When I say Netflix Godzilla, by the way, I'm talking about Singular Point.
Not Singular Point.
We're talking about Godzilla Earth.
Godzilla Earth, right, okay. Oh, so that's allowed. So Godzilla Earth and Gamma Rebirth can fight. But the other iterations...
I mean, like, Gamera would have to be pretty big. I mean, he'd have to pack a lunch for Godzilla Earth, I feel.
Yeah, because Godzilla Earth was
pretty chonktastic. Yeah, pretty big.
Pretty big.
Pretty big, pretty invincible, unstoppable. Yeah, there we go. Anyways, folks, I think we've rambled enough. Next episode in the spooky season, we're going to tackle It Follows. And following that, we'll let you know in the next episode. If you have any suggestions for your favorite spooky creature features,
yes, please
let us know. Try and keep it from being mainstream. We want to see new cool stuff or things that we haven't heard of, quite frankly. Yeah. So, if nothing else, Paul, if nothing else,
because of this, I do want to try and think of other werewolf films. And you've mentioned The Howling, which I don't even know. I don't know if I've seen it. Is it good?
Yeah.
I feel like
if you want to have a laugh, you can watch Wolfen with Jack Nicholson.
No, I think I saw Howling 4. I swear there's a load.
Is that the marsupials one?
I watched it on VCD, which is when they started putting films onto CD compact discs. So you had like 2 discs to watch it on. So it's pre-DVD, but kind of a gap between VHS and Laserdisc and all of that. But that's how old it was. But that's when I watched it. And a classic that we didn't mention was Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps. Oh my gosh, how did I leave that out?
So I'm thinking, America. Did you mention American Werewolf in Paris?
Werewolf in London or Paris? No, I didn't mention those. God, I love American Werewolf in London. What's going on with me tonight? Joe needs
I want to recommend one of them. I'm thinking Ginger Snaps because I swear that was
Ginger Snaps.
Really interesting take on it. So I'm gonna watch that one.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to see if my teenage daughter might watch that one with me. That would be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So if nothing else, watch Ginger Snaps and give us your suggestions for a horror film in the lead up to spooky season. Joe, if nothing else.
If nothing else, I am going to recommend you check out IDW's Space Godzilla one shot featuring Matt Frank. It's a standalone. It is not a Versa Godzilla thing. This is all the tomfoolery that Space Godzilla got up to on his own in space. Its own in space. So other civilizations besides humans reacting to the threat of Space Godzilla. It's a pretty novel take. I've mentioned it before on this podcast. I wanted to see that from Ghidorah. Someone's finally doing it with a space kaiju. I'm going to recommend it. There we go. So thank you again for listening to our ramblings. Check out Dog Soldiers. It's fantastic. If you're in the United Kingdom, you can watch it on Freevee. You'll need a few adverts, taken care of there, but it is free. Alternatively, available by fine retailers such as Amazon, HMV, the likes. It's out since 2002. It's pretty easy to get a hold of. But thanks again, and as always, keep it kaiju. So 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're gonna start that over. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Kaiju Curry House. Joe has forgotten what episode this is already, Paul, so you're gonna have to tell him again. He's 2 for 2 right now.
127.
127. Okay, there we go. So take 3. 127. 127. 127. Okay.
Kaiju Curry House.